Welcome everybody to another storytelling session with Akash Inti. Just getting a sip of my coconut water, very very flavorful and oh man, so nutritious. Anyways, what are we talking about today? Well, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into a couple stories, and just kind of checking in with me. Just off the onset, the first thing that comes to mind, so just before this, I came from a little bit of a dinner, family dinner. Have some guests over, family friends, and I was like, oh man, it's like a little bit past 10 o'clock, and I've got my usual 10 o'clock sessions, right, where I do these recordings and so on and so forth. And man, just at the onset, I was like, just rushed. I was like, I felt hurried, I felt rushed as to like, I need to get all this food in my belly, right? That was like my mindset. So what did I do? I was just looking at the plate, I was just eating as fast as I could. Not as fast as I could, but I was just eating. I was just focusing on eating, no focus on conversation, no nothing. One thing I've learned, I don't remember who told me this, but someone told me this at one point, and this relates to, I guess, networking and things of this nature. Obviously, whenever there's a networking event or something like that, there's always food, drinks, or something available to consume, right? And again, just people to eat, munch on, whatever. Um, Someone once told me that uh, you either talk or you eat. You don't do both at the same time, right? And I think everyone's probably heard something along the lines of "don't talk with your mouth full" or so on and so forth. And so the reason I'm talking about this is because that's what was kind of going on through my mind during this dinner downstairs. It's like I'm trying to get to this live stream right now. I am not really concerned or interested with anything else, and you know what? That's what I'm gonna do right now. So that's what was focused on my mind. That's what was going on in my mind, and that kind of brought me here, right? And so, but just as I was finishing up, I was like, wow, how lucky am I? Have both my parents at the same table with me, my cousin and his fiance at the same table with me, and then family friends. Just how lucky I am to have that. And again, I was focused on make sure that I can get on live, right? That was my main focus. But an afterthought was like, I'm so grateful for that, to have that experience. At dinner, they were talking about how one of their friends' parents died, right? And how, I mean, this guy's a little bit older, right? He's in his 50s or so, but still, it's a parent dying. Is a parent dying. I don't care how old you are. I think that's like a really profoundly life changing experience. And so I just took a moment of gratitude there as I was walking up the stairs and thinking to myself, I'm so grateful for this, for all. Today's been interesting, right? It's been raining like a lot recently. Um, Last couple days, and it's like one of those days where it's super easy to just get under the covers and not really do too much. Um, and yet, I don't know. I'm just realizing and learning how it's not that the outside dictates what's going on in the inside, right? It's not that since the weather's so um like I mentioned, rainy and kind of like cold, like that type of thing. That's not gonna be like, okay, well, inside of me, well, that means I'm just gonna chill and relax and so on and so forth. Though it's easy and convenient, right? It's that the inside dictates the outside. So in other words, that it's like that I continue to do the things that I choose to do, my disciplines and so on and so forth. One of the things that I was on a client call earlier today, um, helping out one of my clients for Inti syndicates as you're interested, kind of in social media stuff. But I've covered so many different things. I've done a little bit of everything, from social media work to fundraising work to strategy work, you name it. And it's really really cool in the client engagement that I'm in with him, in the sense of like I just get to touch a little bit of everything from finding agents, like talent agents, to putting together an investor deck, to managing social media. It's really really interesting to me. But but what came from that conversation, as we were talking a little bit about social media, and that was like this whole, I was like asking him a bunch of questions on, like, he was like, I really want to get on my social media game, I really want to be doing this well. I'm like, well, dude, I get that, right? For quite a bit of time I spent, and I was like 4 times a day, 5 times a day, where I was posting. And I remember there was times where it was like, if I wasn't posting, it felt like I was a failure. Felt like I was like just not living up to whatever I was doing at the time, you know? And since I've changed a little bit, my mindset's changed and so on and so forth, I realized in some senses, like, there was a little bit of almost like falseness in the sense of like upholding an image to some degree, whatever that image may have been, right? But that sense of like, oh man, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. It was like, but why did I want to do this to begin with? And to remember like what that is, right? Like, what's the reason why I wanted to show my life to other people? You know, I think that's just something that's really, really important. And so that was some of the questioning that I was going through with him, right? As to like, what is this really about? What is this whole social media thing really about for you, right? And so he had his answer, and everyone has their own answer, right? He's an artist, he's a musician, and so for him it was to really connect with his audience and really make sure that his audience knows not only who he is, but um that they recognize that like he's one of them, you know, that like we're all in this together. And so um what I'm getting at through this story, this little vignette of my day in and of itself, is that I was able to recognize and realized how, and he actually pointed this out. He said, he was like, yeah, you said this really succinctly, you being me, um in that it's important for us to like to be authentic in everything that we do in the day, right? That's in the way that we post on social media, that's in the way that we eat our food, that's in the way that we use our computer, that's in the way that we exercise, that's in the way that we drink our water, that's in the way that we communicate with other people. Because there's ways of being fake about that, right? There's really ways of being false about that. And that's one thing I guess I've kind of come to learn and understand more and more. And it's not like we're doing this like purposefully. I don't think it's like, oh man, I want to put on this image. But to some degree, yes, at the same time, I think it's just that there's an unawareness around what does it really mean for me to be doing things that are easy for me to do. In other words, like what's just natural, um, and what is natural for me as an individual, or for him as an individual, and so on and so forth, right? That's one thing I'm exploring more and more, because the closer we get to natural, I mean, it's just life is on autopilot. It's like, well, I would do this anyways. Like for example, with him, it's like, yeah, I want to. I think for me, it would be easy to post like once a week, right? And like, all right, let's start there, right? Because that's a big step, right? Not posting at all to posting once a week. I mean, that's a big step. We talked a little bit about a bunch of different things, but I guess I really wanted to talk about that whole thing of like, what does it mean to be authentic in the sense of in our day to day living, in the way that we post on social media, in the way that we live our day, you know? I think things that I've realized is like it's easy to be, especially as it related to social media, it's easy to be like, I have to do this, and there's a reason for it, and so on and so forth. And so, just coming back to that, what was my original reason for doing this, right? Was it really, did it come from like a true place of expression, or did it come from a place of like repression? In other words, did it come from a place where I felt like I wasn't expressing in some way, shape, or form, um, and so I needed to express in some way, shape, or form, and that was the way of doing it. Or repression meaning um, more so like just since I had been so repressed in some senses, right? And whether that's at the end of the day, I think everything has to do with us in the sense of I have this belief that everything that happens in my life, um, well, obviously I don't have control over the things that happen to me, right? Like if I get into a car accident or something, I have the choice as to do I decide this or not for me, right? And so, or how do I decide to react to this? How do I decide to think about this? How do I decide to conduct myself, conduct my behavior? No matter what happens to me, I always have that choice. Um, and so, circling back to what I was saying before, which kind of just escapes me right now, but I just figured let me throw in the words circling back to what I what I said before, because it ties in really really well. And eventually, the words just kind of come back to you, and the train of thought ends up coming back to me. But circling back to that topic is like, what was the real reason why I was doing this? What's the why? And it's taken some time to really reflect on it. You know, I've taken a big step back from social media land in a lot of ways. At least Instagram, right? I mean, that's the other thing though, right? There's so many other forms of social media, right? I mean, like I'm streaming on Twitch right now. You guys on Instagram who are watching aren't aware of that. I have like a Tumblr account. I've had all of these different things, and it's like, what do you use when? And I'm playing around with these things and really getting a better sense of what works best when, at the very least for me, right? Because that's the only way that I can really um, express this to others. And I think there's a lot of value to be unpacked and uncovered in that, right? In the sense of like, well, I've tried this one, I've tried this one, I've tried this one, I've tried this one, I've tried this one. And this worked really well for this type of content. This worked really well for this type of content. This worked well for this type of content. Like, I think there's certain times where it's actually better to use certain channels than others. This being a perfect example of it, right? I'm doing a live stream right now. A live stream, for example, wouldn't work on Tumblr, right? Or it wouldn't work on Twitter. You can't do that. The functionality is not there. But on the same token, there's also other things where if I just want to do audio only, maybe I was just going for a walk. I was walking in the woods, and for me, for example, I found that when I walk, when I'm moving around, especially in nature, um, man, it's like there's just like a very lucid mind. I have a very lucid mind, and so um, I mean, audio stuff might work better. Anyways, what I'm saying is that like I've been exploring more and more what social media channels work best for me, and just different innovative uses for them, or using them a little bit more interestingly. And I've been really been doing that. So that's much for that. I also sponsored this. And so the rest of today has been it's just been interesting. I've just been finding these synchronicities in life as it relates to just coming back to what's important. What's important right now. What's the real things that are important, and more I've placed a larger importance on my own spiritual life. What am I telling myself every moment? How am I circling back to concepts that are or values or principles that can guide me, right? That could be everything from just, for example, in my room, I have a bunch of post-it notes and whatnot around me, right? So that no matter what, I'm always like, my subconscious mind is like picking up on these subtle cues, right? And I'll see the thing, I've seen it like 60, 70, 80,000 times, right? Upon waking up, upon just doing some work and just glancing up, even just in the peripheral vision, they're around, right? These are little signals to myself. Um, that it's just kind of like I'm telling my brain something, right? I'm like, I took the time to write it down and place it in places that are like, I'm just going to keep running into it. And so I think there's a big impact there. And they're reminders, it's like typing on the computer, sending out an email, on a phone call, whatever. Living, right? Living life. And that sense of whatever it is, that sense of frustration can come about, or whatever, right? There's something in our minds that'll like be like, or even sometimes it's not even like a like an idea that's like in words, but it's sometimes even just like a grunt or an expression where it's like easy to tell that there's a lot of like energy built up around that, like like whatever, like all these like different little things that, I mean, in and of itself it doesn't mean anything, but taken in the context of the larger of what it means, right? Of like that tension that's being built up around a subject. I mean, it tells a lot about how I'm feeling, right? And I'm exploring ways to like, how can I feel better about everything that I do, right? And I don't mean to feel better in the sense of like, let me go get high, let me go shoot up some heroin right now and make sure that I feel better. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is like, what can I do to make my life simpler and more natural, more just easy to flow through, to make it more elegant, if you will, so that it's enjoyable for me to go through it, and not to have these experiences of like that tension of whatever it may be around. And part of that's inevitable, right? Part of it's just like, well, there's certain things that are uncomfortable to do and you're going to do them nonetheless. But is there a better way? Is there a wiser way that maybe I don't have to go through it that way? Maybe I had it wrong this whole time. Maybe there is another way that's more aligned with who I am as an individual. That's really who I am. So I'm exploring that more and more because I want to live simply. I don't want life to be complicated. I don't want it to be tough. I don't want all of these things. Um, Call me lazy, whatever you want, but that's just, I want life to be like that. I want it to be me, like authentically me. You know, I want my living to be authentically me. And I continue to explore this more and more, you know, as to like what does that mean? How do I live and express myself how I am, right? If I were to give the formula of here's how you are, how someone could be Akash Inti, like what does that look like? What does that feel like? What guides those decisions and things of this nature? And I don't know, right? That's kind of what I'm really exploring. The ideas that really resonate with me, the the thought patterns, the emotions, the depth of the emotions, the shallowness of the emotions, the everything, the sensations of being in the skin, um, sensations of the breeze, cold, the sensations even of blood flow and where blood flows in the body and how the body is being exerted, what types of exercises, all of these different things. Like if I was to give a program to someone as to like this is what it's like to be me, and obviously, I mean, to some degrees, it's almost impossible. But at the same time, like I don't know, I like trying to answer those questions, I like thinking about those questions and saying, well, what is that like? How do I give someone this type of experience? And there's certain ways that we can do that through our words, right? I mean, I think even through our words, we're able to express things that are just really uncanny, right? That experiences that people wouldn't be able to have otherwise. But I don't know, I'm just continuing to study that more and more. And so, well, I'm going to leave that you guys on Instagram Live with those last few words. If you guys are interested in checking me out on which I'm continuing the live stream on Twitch. My username is Akash Inti, same thing as it is on Instagram. So feel free to tune in live there. I'm for you guys who've just been tuning in now. I'm trying a bunch of different social media avenues, platforms, etc., and just playing around with them. Right. I mean, that's part of what we do at Inti Syndicates um, is we help really influencers or people who want to be influencers. People really want to get a message out on social media. What's the best way to do that? Right? What's the best way to get that message out um and how to be creative about it? You know, I'm looking for the people who are innovative, who are creative, who are clever. You know, I don't that's how I identify myself, and I like finding newer ways or innovative ways of doing things. So right now I've got a pretty like just a booked up client roster, so not taking on any new clients. But if you're interested in some of this stuff, DM me, reach out. You know, aside from the little pitch thing, check out Twitch. A really really cool platform, mostly for gamers, right? Mostly for people who are live streaming games, video games, and stuff. But again, I'm using it a different way than it was meant to be used. You know, or maybe not, right? But that's what I'm here about. You know, it's just like figuring some of these different things out and exploring them in some shape or form. I've been very silent on social media, and I'm sure those of you guys tuning in, especially on Instagram Live, are like been so silent recently. And it's like, well, there's a lot of things ongoing right now. Got a few projects that are really picking up steam, and um, just dedicated the time and energy to that more. I've been running like 4 or 5 Instagram pages, so it's just like my personal one's not really as important to me. I don't really have much to say on my personal front. Um, but on some of the other ones, on some of the niche categories that I spend quite a bit of time researching and going to say the least. Um, Check me out there. So with that, I will see you guys later on Instagram Live. Thank you for tuning in, and keep up, thrive, and stay sexy. Cool. So we are still on for Twitch over here. Was kind of that was a little bit tailored piece to some of my followers there. So give me a sec while I take a sip of some coconut water. Man, every single time I take a sip of that, it's just like amazing, really really good. I would give like a brand promotion for this type of coconut water. Um, if I was being paid for it, but since I'm not being paid for it, I'm gonna do it anyways. This is the Kirkland organic coconut water, so the Costco brand organic coconut water. Really, really flavorful. I'm very particular about my coconut waters because there's some that are like not good, but this one it's not too sweet. Like it's not like disgusting sweet. Um, and it's just like perfect. You know, it's perfect. I usually use coconut water for some of my smoothies, like my protein shakes. It's usually my base. because it's super hydrating and it's just like literally what I like to call the nectar of the gods. Like it really is. Um, but yeah, it's funny because just before this live stream, there was a part of me that was just like, man, I don't want to do this live stream right now. I can't believe I have to talk for an hour. And then I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you don't have to do anything. If I didn't want to, I wouldn't have done this live stream. But I've been recognizing that, right? Like this part of me that's like, man, I don't want to do this. And it's like, where did that come from? Because everything that I'm doing in my life right now is things that I want to do, right? Like, no one's like gun to your head, like, oh, Akash Inti, you better get on Twitch right now because if you don't get on Twitch, you know what I mean? Like, no, that's not happening at all. This is all of my own free volition, right? Everything that I'm doing right now, everything that I'm 100% everything that I'm doing in my life is of my own free volition. There's no influence. There's no one saying, "Oh, you should do this or you should do that," or not really. It's my own choice, you know. And as I even look back, I mean, even some of like my past decisions, everything was kind of my own volition to some degree. Perhaps there was influences that I subjected myself to, or that I found value in, perhaps at the time in the past. But I think those have since changed, and I think they continue to change every single day, right? And I don't really know necessarily how influence works entirely. Though it has been one of my big studies. I'm sure you guys are quite familiar that that's like one of my like the big things that I study, right? Is like influence, right? It's like, what does that even mean to some degree? What is influence and what's the power of influence, and why does influence have so much power, and how do we harness the power of influence, and all of this stuff, right? And that's really what a large part of like what I do is like that study of influence. How do I impact people? How do I make people think in a certain way? How do I and not make them think, but guide them to think in a certain way? All of these things are really, really important and really interesting to me. And I don't know, right? I have no idea. Um, but I do have some ideas, right? Maybe I don't have no idea. I have some ideas. I think the best part about living, the best part about exploring, the best part about studying is really recognizing that I don't have these ideas right now, but I'm willing to go find them. So it's funny because just as I was doing that, I was like recognizing, I'm like, I haven't been using my hands too much. I haven't been talking with my hands. Like my hands have not been in the picture at all. And what was going on in my mind, like I was thinking about just like as I was seeing this, like one of my mentors who like talks, he talks with his hands like a lot. You know what I mean? Like everything that he does is like talking with his hand. And it's not like it makes sense, right? It's not like he's talking with his hands and it's like, ooh, let me talk with that. No, it's not like that at all. It's like the points that he's making like actually make a lot of sense. And so just the way that the words that he's saying almost kind of they associate with the hand movements and the hand placements, but more importantly, the ideas flow with the hands themselves. But anyways, it was just funny to me because I was like, I haven't been using my hands in a little bit, and then I started like using my hands a lot, and then I went overly so, right? It's like I haven't been using my hands a lot. Why haven't I been using my hands? And it's like, all right, come on, guy. Like that's a little ridiculous. This whole time you haven't moved them, and then bam, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, let me go all over the. I don't know. It's funny to me. That's one thing I continue. Oh man, that's so good. So good. I'm telling you guys, this like amazing, amazing coconut water. More than anything, especially with the coconut water, it's always the aftertaste that I found that's like really, really critical and crucial, right? Is like some of the aftertastes are like ah, but this one's like it's so smooth and subtle. But I don't really even remember what I was talking about for a moment ago, just before I got onto this little charade about hands placement and talking with my hands and so on and so forth. Um, the other thing I've been working on today is just and like I'm planning a little trip over the next couple weeks, and so just getting that squared away. You know, the details around that, getting a little excited around it too, and thinking about, oh, should I do this? Should I stay here? Should I go there? All of these things, and it's like, dude, chill. Like it's not that big of a deal. Um, in the grand scheme of things, you're gonna have a trip. You're gonna go there. You're gonna have a place to stay. You're gonna have some food to eat. You're gonna meet some people. You're gonna experience time, right? Assuming that I make it, right? Assuming that I'm alive by that day, right? And if I'm not, well, yeah, matter even more so, right? But all these things are gonna happen. It's gonna be fine. Chill, you know. And so I don't know. I'm trying. I'm living in the day more and more, right? I'm living only in today. I'm not thinking about, well, 6 months from now, how am I gonna pay for this imaginary jet ski that I wanna rent from this person? And it's like, well, dude, what are you talking about, right? It's 100%. What are you talking about? More and more, I just recognize, like, when do I do these things, right? Like, when do I just project so far into the future that it's absolutely ridiculous as to like why I'm thinking about certain things, and just play with that more and more, you know. A little tired right now, but like tired in the sense of like not like sleepy tired, almost like a little like body exhaustion to some degree, right? It's because the mind is pretty lucid. I mean, man, it's like I'm not even thinking about what I'm thinking about, right? At this moment, it's just like being, and I'm just being. You know, I like the way that was being. Like that's just what's going on right now. It's as if I'm free flow talking. It's not like, oh, what do I say next, or how do I do this, or what should I do, or about, and then like none of that's going on right now. It's just talking off the cuff, which is really really interesting. But then again, it's like, what am I really talking about off the cuff? It's like I'm talking about talking off the cuff, and it's like, that's not really what's like so interesting and true, so intriguing. But then again, what was the real point of me even doing this to begin with? This is just telling a story, and what story am I telling? Well, I'm telling a story of telling a story while telling a story. I don't even know if that made sense, but to me, it kind of did make sense, to some degree. I've had this. I'm looking at this right now. I've had this like jar of, not even a jar. It's like a little, a vial is like, I guess what's the proper terminology for it? I don't know. And this little thing of nail polish, pink nail polish. And I vividly remember when I received it. Um, I'm just looking at it right now, and I'm like, part of me is just like, that's so ridiculous that I have this little vial of nail polish, pink nail polish, like literally hot pink nail polish. It's just in my room, and I'm like, that's funny. That's really really funny. The other thing is like when I think about my life, when I just observe it most best ability that I can, kind of find the humor in it. Like some of the things that I've done in my life are just absolutely, absolutely, um, just so ridiculous. I look at myself sometimes and I'm like, you are such a ridiculous individual. And I love that about myself. You know, I really do. I really love that I'm so ridiculous because it entertains me. You know, you guys think this whole Twitch thing's about you guys. Hell no. Me, you know, I get to entertain myself for an hour and entertain myself in ways that are just, I guess, interesting. I don't know. I just get to entertain myself for an hour. You guys get to tune in. That's the other thing about the modern world, right? It's like, I mean, I don't know if it's about the modern world. It's just about the world in general, right? It's like, I mean, we spend a lot of our time, by we, I mean we as a species of human beings, but I can only speak for myself as a human being, but I know this is kind of a universal human being experience, right? And that experience being, well, I need to make sure that I provide myself shelter, food, water, sunlight, clothing, at the base, right? I need to have these things in my life to be able to survive. Thereafter, usually what comes is like, okay, well, I have all of these things and I'm operating at a pretty good spot. I'm healthy as well, right? And I'm able to take care of myself. So it's like, what's next, right? And what's next, usually, I think, is, well, it's like sex, right? It's like, it's the first thing. It's like, all right, well, mating, right? Or something to that degree. Maybe not for everyone, but I think that's like kind of an underlying thing. And then it's like, all right, well, what's beyond that? And I think it's, and again, you can go through the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs and yada, yada, yada. If you haven't heard about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, look it up. It's just like a really interesting triangle. Kind of like, what are the needs of a human being? And then I think at the tippy, 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 tippy top is something called self actualization, something like this. And it's like just being yourself, you know, actualizing the spirit of the individual. Right. And so, well, how does one actualize themselves, right? And I think that's the question that everyone has. Right? It's like, how do I actualize myself, right? And to some degree, I mean, me even doing this little whatever entertainment thing, this is me kind of in some senses actualizing myself, whatever that may mean, and so on and so forth. Part of me right now, I don't know why, a random part of me is like, dude, you got to do a clubhouse thing. So I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna put this on my calendar over here. Clubhouse. That's gonna be my goal for the month. I think is just do once a week, be half an hour clubhouse. Clubhouse. And this is one of the things I do. You guys are getting a little glimpse into my life right now, into like how I like actually organize one of the things that I do. Live stream. Let's do one time per week. Let's do that on tomorrow, like Fridays. I'm gonna do one tomorrow, but I'm really gonna do one on Wednesdays. So Clubhouse. So yeah, this is how I started this whole Twitch thing, right? It was just like, well, I'm gonna try Twitch one time a week for an hour. Bam, let me do it. And I just wrote it on my calendar. And what I write on my calendar is actually really, really interesting. It's like I don't write much on it, right? It's like I really just write like if I need to get one thing done today, what is that one thing? Or if, I mean I leave it to three, right? And sometimes it's like, well, I mean some of these are like um whatever. You don't need to know every single little thing that I do because you just don't. But though I'm sure you're curious. But oh, I forgot to write the one for tomorrow. But what I was saying was that like yeah, this is how I start to make this shit happen. You know? And again, these are all explorations, right? Each of these little projects is like I don't know what's gonna come out of it. I don't really care. I'm just trying to see how do I do this, right? How do I learn about this platform? What's going on with it, and so on and so forth. Like let's play around a little bit. Let's see what chatting has here. Oh, and I don't think there's anything chatting. Wait, yeah, I don't think there's anything there. Scene. Oh no scene. Be right back. But I'm back. And so yeah, I don't know how any of these things work. Honestly, I really have yet to play with it. I'm just screwing around right now on the different scenes, and I haven't like done anything to the any of these and whatever. Like here's the thing. Like I highly encourage you guys to just check out like how do you use Twitch? How do you do this? How do you do that? And just from a place of curiosity of like, I wonder what that is, or how does this work, or whatever, right? Because that's just I don't know. I've just found that to be really, really interesting, right? In the sense of I just feel more comfortable. See now I'm playing on like the Twitch screen a lot right now, right? I'm like looking, I'm like, oh, let's look at a little everything, you know. It's all right, guy. Know what to do when, but it's all good, you know. It's all good. So I don't even know what I was talking about now. Let me put this down a little bit. Whatever. That's how that'll be. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at right now. You know, that's how I've been making my decisions. Um and it's interesting because look, it's like there's certain days where like today for perfect example, today, right? Just before I came on, I was like I really don't want to do this right now. Well, when did you make that decision? What was the decision that you made, right? And if I look back of about I think this is my 6th or 7th, I don't know, 5th, something like that. It's like maybe 5 streams or so, 6 streams, I don't know, something like that I've done these like Twitch live streams. It's when I made that decision, it was like, well, I just want to see what this whole Twitch thing is about, right? I want to experience it. I want to see what it's like, especially on the creator side of it, right? I mean, I could do it um, from the viewing side of it, but candidly, I don't really. I mean, I just don't give a shit, right? I don't want to watch someone else's life, that I don't know about. I don't, you know, like for me personally, that's just not of interest. At least the people who are on Twitch that I've been exposed to date. Meanwhile, I'm having like a gastrointestinal conniption over here. Jeez. That's so nice. But um, yeah, I just lost my like space. You know what I mean? I spaced out a little bit. I've been doing a lot of research, like movie wise, right? I've been watching a bunch of movies recently. Um, and everything from like classic movies, like oh, what is the guy's name? The name is on the tip of my tongue. It's a famous samurai warrior. Very very famous. Miyamoto Musashi, who was played by Toshiro Mifune. Toshiro Mifune was one of the greatest, truly one of the greatest actors of Japanese cinema, right? And he did work with Akira Kurosawa. Akira Kurosawa was one of the greatest Japanese directors of his time. Akira Kurosawa. Akira Kurosawa influenced Steven Spielberg, right? So if you've seen Star Wars, which is a Steven Spielberg creation, if I remember correctly, or at least in some way, shape, or form. Um, I mean, okay, it was George Lucas, but Steven Spielberg did play a part, like a part of a role for some of it at the very least. Again, this is what I've heard from through the grapevine, through I think one of the through the grapevine. Yeah, I'm so connected to these guys that Steven Spielberg. No, it's like I think I was watching a documentary, right, and there was something about that he ended up talking about how like the um whole lightsaber parts uh, the Jedi was kind of influenced by that. Again, I don't remember how that had anything to do with, like, because obviously it was George Lucas's story, but then I know Spielberg played some type of role. I think he was offered it, but he didn't end up doing it, and blah 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 blah. And so, anyways, Kurosawa was like a big part to that, in the sense of influencing that. But circle back, yeah. So I've been doing a lot of study of just cinema because I love cinema, right? I love the stories that are told. I love the ideas that are conveyed through movie. I love the emotion that more than anything, the emotion that's conveyed through movie and film, in the sense of um, just being able to convey like a feeling, right? I think to some degree that's one of the toughest things to do, and yet when done well, man, there's something about it. There's really something. It can really change an individual, like completely, completely. And I say that speaking for myself, right? There's some movies that I've watched that have like they've just completely changed me. They've changed the way that I view the world, and um, they've almost like deposited like certain values or certain um, ways of seeing the world to me, and I'm really grateful for them. You know, but I say that because I was just like I don't know, it's really really interesting to me. Um, Not only the characters that are presented in some of these different films, but also how these characters go about their lives. What is it that they deem important? How do they handle a certain situation? Why do they handle it in that particular way? Um, and I see myself so much so as a character, right? Even just my everyday living, I almost put it into the context of like, well, I was to be the character, if say I kind of am, right? So it's like, but if I were to like describe like the character of Akash Inti, how would I describe that character? What would an individual, what would a human being have to do to be this character, right? And so I don't know, that's kind of I mean, I just live, right? It's just I do my living, and that leads to one thing, which leads to another thing, and so on and so forth. Part of the reason why I make these videos, I guess, to some degrees, it's like, well, it's like this is my character, right? Like borrow from my character as I've borrowed from other characters, and maybe this character that I'm presenting has already been done before, right? You mean like, oh yeah, I know like six guys exactly like you. This one looks like you. This one moves like you. This one talks like you. This one tells stories like you. This one blah 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 blah, blah whatever, right? I don't know. Um, this one, I don't know, whatever. But at the same time, there's only one me, right? And there's only one you, and that's what makes you individual and an individual. This is what makes me an individual and makes me unique, right? So it's really, really interesting to me. So I'm looking at the time right now of like it's 10:53 Eastern Standard Time on the day of Thursday, on the day of Thor, April 15th, 2021. Um, a part of me is like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, GTFO, get the fuck out of here. Right? Is that funny? GTFO. I love that. It reminds me of like a little, like an inside joke with my cousin who's downstairs, um, and my brother. Which man, I just wanna, I want to text it right now in our group chat. I'll say something about it. I think it would just be kind of strange, just out of nowhere. You just text your brother and your cousin, yo, GTFO. Like, dude, what are you talking about? Exactly. I don't know. Anyways, oh, I'm grateful for my life, man. Really, really grateful. Grateful that I'm even making this video. Following through with my that I'm following through with my word. That I'm following through with what I decided to do, and man, it makes me esteem of myself. It's like golf claps for myself. Not in ways that it's like, yeah, look at me. No, it's like I'm proud of myself. But I'm proud in the sense of like, yeah, check me out. I'm proud in the sense of like, well done. Like a simple, well done, good job. Nothing more. And I need that because I can easily turn the ego on and just super self-inflate myself to be like, whatever. Um, that's that. So I leave you guys here. I'll leave on my famous last word. Up, 5, and stay sexy.